David Young's journey is a testament to the power of resilience. Once a bullied child struggling with financial challenges, he rose above his circumstances to become the president of a thriving company. His success wasn't just in business. As I stand here, a successful man in a tailored suit, it's hard to believe I was once that kid. The one others preferred to ignore, the one who wore poverty like a second skin. My name is David Young, and this is my story, a journey from the shadows of a painful past to a life bathed in a light I once thought unreachable. I grew up in a neighborhood where wealth was the unspoken rule, and we, the Young family, were the unnoticed subjects. My parents, God bless their souls, worked tirelessly, laboring under the weight of multiple jobs. Still, it was never enough. Our house, with its peeled paint and creaking floors, stood as a stark contrast to the polished homes lining the rest of the street. School was no sanctuary. It was there, amidst the echoing halls and judgmental glances, that I first met Sarah. She was the sun around which the social solar system revolved, her laughter a melody that drew people in, and her scorn a storm that could cast them out. I was often the target of that storm. "Hey, David, did the charity shop run out of clothes?" Sarah's voice would slice through the chatter of the playground, her words sharp as knives. Laughter would follow, a chorus of mockery that stung deeper each day. I remember looking down at my worn-out shoes, feeling a burning shame that seemed to seep into my very soul. Home wasn't much of a refugee either. My parents, lost in their own battle to keep us afloat, had little energy left at the end of the day. Dinner was often a silent affair, the air heavy with things left unsaid. We were a family united in love, but divided by our collective struggle. In those days, my world was small, confined to the few blocks that made up our neighborhood. But within that world, I dreamt big. I would lie awake at night, a second handbook clutched in my hands, the dim light of a fading lamp, my beacon of hope. Those books were my escape, my secret windows to a world beyond the confines of poverty and ridicule. Yet with each day that passed, each jibe and jeer that I endured, a part of that hopeful child withered. It's strange how the words of others can become the voice in your head. Worthless, Way said, and for a long time I believed them. It wasn't just the poverty that weighed me down. It was the crushing belief that I was defined by it, that I was less because I had less. I remember one particularly cold winter's day. The snow had turned to slush, painting the world in shades of gray. As I trudged through the icy streets, my threadbare coat barely warding off the chill, Sarah's voice echoed behind me. "Hey, David, even the snow looks better than you." Laughter followed as it always did. But that day, something within me refused to accept it. That day, I made a silent vow, a vow to rise above the taunts, above the circumstances that sought to define me. In that moment, a spark was ignited, a flicker of defiance in the face of despair. It was the first step on a long and arduous journey, a path that would lead me to places I had only dared to dream of. But in the depths of that struggle, in the heart of that pain, I couldn't see the road ahead. All I knew was the ache in my heart, the yearning for something more, something better. As I reflect on those days, standing at the precipice of a future forged from the fires of my past, I realize that my story is not one of sorrow, but of strength. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that where we come from does not dictate where we are going. My journey was not easy, but it was necessary. It was the crucible that shaped me, the darkness that made me yearn for the light. And so, as I turn the pages of my past, I do so with a sense of gratitude. For it was in those darkest moments, in the depths of despair and loneliness, that I found my strength. It was in the laughter of my tormentors that I discovered my resolve. And it was in the shadows of a troubled childhood that I learned to shine. As I moved through the corridors of my life, each step away from those childhood years seemed to draw me paradoxically closer to understanding Sarah. The girl who had once been my tormentor gradually became less of a monster in my mind and more of a casualty of circumstances, much like myself. Years later, standing in the quiet of my office, the echoes of my past mingling with the soft hum of the city below, I couldn't help but reflect on Sarah's journey. It was a realization that came not with triumph, but with a sobering sense of empathy. Sarah, the queen of the playground, had not been born with a crown of cruelty. It had been thrust upon her by a life that I had known nothing about. It was during a chance encounter, a few years before the fateful anniversary party, that I had learned the truth. I had run into an old classmate who had kept in touch with Sarah. Over coffee, he had painted a picture of her life that was starkly different from the one I had imagined. Sarah's home, which I had pictured as a haven of luxury and love, was nothing more than a gilded cage. Her father, a man of considerable influence and even greater temper, had instilled in her a fear that ran deep. Perfection was the only currency he accepted, and Sarah learned to pay her dues with the only coin she knew: dominance. Her mother, a shadow in their opulent home, had been a silent witness to the emotional turmoil that brewed within Sarah. With each passing day, as her father's expectations weighed heavier, Sarah's true self was buried deeper under a facade of arrogance and bravado. This revelation struck a chord in me, a dissonant harmony of sorrow and understanding. How many times had I looked into her eyes, searching for a glimmer of kindness, only to find a reflection of her own fear and pain? Her words, once daggers to my heart, now appeared as desperate shields against her own demons. It was a bitter pill to swallow, the realization that the line between victim and villain was blurred by the ink of our circumstances. I had spent years building a fortress around my heart, stone by stone, each one laid with a memory of her cruelty. But now, as these walls threatened to crumble under the weight of this new understanding, I was forced to confront a troubling question. Was Sarah deserving of my scorn or my sympathy? The Sarah I knew was a product of a broken system, a child taught that to be seen. She had to make others feel invisible. It was a twisted lesson, imparted by those who should have nurtured her. Her laughter, which had once echoed like the tolling of a bell signifying my shame, now resonated with the hollowness of her own unshed tears. As I delved deeper into these reflections, I couldn't help but draw parallels between our lives. We were both shaped by our childhoods, molded by the hands of fate and circumstance. Yet our responses had set us on divergent paths. I chose resilience. Sarah chose dominance. I sought invisibility. She demanded visibility, at any cost. In that moment of introspection, I realized that my journey towards understanding Sarah was not just about forgiveness, but about recognizing the complexities of human nature. We are all products of our past, but we also have the power to redefine our future. Sarah's story was a poignant reminder that behind every action, there's a history. Behind every bully, there's a battle, and behind every hardened heart, there's a hidden hurt. As the day of the anniversary party approached, a sense of unease settled over me. It wasn't just about facing my past, but about confronting the truth, that the line between pain and who we become is often drawn with an unsteady hand. Sarah's story had changed the narrative of my memories, but it hadn't erased the scars. It had simply painted them in a different light, a hue of understanding amidst the shadows of resentment. In the grand tapestry of life, Sarah and I were but two threads, woven closely by fate, yet so distinctly different in color and texture. Our encounters, once a dance of predator and prey, had now evolved into a complex choreography of shared pain and mutual understanding. And as the party loomed closer, I knew that it was not just a reunion, but a reckoning, a moment where the past would meet the present, and the truths hidden in the shadows would finally be brought into the light. Amidst the tumult of my childhood, a beacon of light shone through in the form of Annie, a girl whose kindness became my sanctuary in a world that often felt unrelentingly harsh. It was during one of the darkest periods of my youth that our paths crossed. under circumstances that seemed to conspire against any form of solace or companionship. I first saw Annie on a day that had been particularly brutal. Sarah's taunts had been more vicious than usual, leaving me to nurse my wounded pride in the solitude of the school library. It was there, hidden between aisles of books, my usual refuge, that I stumbled upon her. Annie, with her gentle eyes and a smile that seemed to push away the shadows, was a stark contrast to the starkness of my reality. She was new to the school, unaware of the unspoken social hierarchies that governed our adolescent lives. To her, I wasn't David Young, the outcast. I was just another soul amidst the sea of faces. Her first words to me were simple, yet they struck a chord deep within my heart. "Do you mind if I sit here?" she had asked, her voice a soft melody in the quiet of the library. In the days that followed, our friendship blossomed. Annie became my confidante, the one person who saw beyond the veil of poverty and shame that I wore like a second skin. She listened to my stories, my dreams that seemed too audacious for a boy in my position, and never once did she pity me. Instead, she fueled my aspirations, believing in them as if they were her own. Her presence in my life was like a warm summer's day after a relentless winter. She taught me that kindness was not a currency to be earned, but a gift to be shared. In her eyes, I found a reflection of a version of myself I had long since buried, a version that dared to hope, to dream. Annie's own story was one of quiet resilience. Her family, much like mine, struggled under the weight of financial constraints. Yet, she carried her circumstances not as a burden, but as a testament to her strength. Her optimism was not naive. It was grounded in the reality of her struggles, making it all the more remarkable. Together, we navigated the complexities of adolescence, finding solace in each other's company. Our bond was a silent rebellion against the world that sought to define us by our limitations. With Annie, I dared to envision a future where my worth was not dictated by my financial status or the words of those who sought to diminish me. As high school came to a close, our relationship evolved from a friendship to something deeper, something more profound. Annie stood by my side as I embarked on the arduous journey of building a life beyond the confines of my upbringing. Her belief in me was the wind beneath my wings, propelling me forward when self-doubt threatened to anchor me to the ground. The night before the anniversary party, as I lay beside her, I found myself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. The prospect of facing my past, personified in the form of Sarah and her cohorts, filled me with a sense of trepidation. Yet, Annie's presence was a constant reminder of how far I had come. Her gentle breathing, a rhythmic lullaby in the stillness of the night, was a testament to the life we had built together. In her, I had found not only a partner but a fellow warrior in the battle against the demons of my past. Her unwavering support was my armor, her love my shield. As the first rays of dawn crept through the curtains, casting a gentle glow on her sleeping face, I realized that the journey ahead was not just mine to traverse. It was ours, a path we would walk together, hand in hand, heart in heart. The scars of my past may have shaped me, but it was the love and bond I shared with Annie that defined me. In her, I had found my anchor, my beacon in the stormy seas of life. And as we prepared to face the remnants of a past long gone, but never forgotten, I knew that with her by my side, there was nothing we couldn't overcome. The anniversary party was not just a reunion of old classmates. It was a testament to our journey, a celebration of the love and resilience that had carried us through the darkest of times. As dawn broke, casting a soft glow over the city, I reflected on the path that had led me here. My journey from the depths of despair to the pinnacle of success was not just a testament to my resilience, but a narrative intertwined with ambition and aspiration, fueled by the love and belief of Annie. The years following high school were a blur of relentless determination and unyielding effort. I had vowed to rise above the circumstances of my birth, to carve a path that would lead me away from the shadows of my past. The world had labeled me as less, but within me burned a fire to prove them wrong. I remember the nights spent under the dim light of my desk lamp, textbooks spread before me, a sea of knowledge waiting to be explored. My fingers would trace the lines of text, each word a stepping stone towards a future I was determined to secure. College was a challenge, both academically and financially. Scholarships and part-time jobs became my lifeline, a means to an end that often seemed just out of reach. Annie was my rock during those tumultuous years. She worked alongside me, her own dreams mirroring mine in their magnitude. Together, we faced the world, two souls against the tide of adversity that threatened to pull us under. Our apartment was small, the walls thin enough to hear the whispers of the city at night. But it was our haven, a place where our dreams and realities converged. I often found solace in the quiet moments we shared, her head resting on my shoulder as we sat on our second-hand couch, the city lights twinkling like distant stars outside our window. Those moments were a reminder of what I was fighting for. Not just success, but a life where love and happiness were not overshadowed by the struggle for survival. My ascent in the corporate world was not meteoric, but a steady climb. Each position I held, from an intern to a manager, and eventually to an executive, was a battle fought and won. I learned the language of business, the nuances of leadership, and the art of resilience. With each success, I could feel the chains of my past loosening, giving way to a newfound sense of freedom and accomplishment. Yet, with every step I took away from my past, a part of me remained anchored to it. The memories of Sarah's taunts, the sting of poverty, and the judgmental glances of those who saw me as nothing more than the sum of my financial worth. These were the ghosts that walked beside me, a constant reminder of where I had come from. The night I was named the president of the company marked a significant milestone in my journey. As I stood at the podium addressing a room full of applauding colleagues and dignitaries, I couldn't help but glance at Annie, her eyes brimming with pride and love. In that moment, I realized the magnitude of what we had achieved. From the depths of despair to the heights of success, we had traversed a path that many deemed impossible. But this success was not just mine. It was ours. Annie's unwavering faith in me, her sacrifices, and her love had been the cornerstone of my achievements. She had been my partner in every sense, walking beside me through every challenge, celebrating every triumph. As the day of the anniversary party approached, a day that promised to be a celebration of my accomplishments, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. It was not just a reunion with my former classmates, but a confrontation with my past. Sarah and the others who had once made my life a living hell would be there. The thought of facing them, not as the boy they once ridiculed, but as the man I had become, filled me with a complex mix of emotions. Anxiety, anticipation, and a deep-seated need for closure swirled within me. I knew that this event was more than just a social gathering. It was a reckoning, a moment where the ghosts of my past would meet the reality of my present. It was an opportunity to close a chapter that had been left open for far too long. As I stood before the mirror, adjusting my tie, I took a deep breath. The reflection staring back at me was not just of a man who had succeeded against all odds, but of someone who had learned the true meaning of resilience, love, and forgiveness. The journey to this point had been long and fraught with challenges. But as I turned to join Annie, ready to face the past head-on, I knew that no matter what lay ahead, we were ready to face it together. For in the end, it was not just about where I had come from or what I had achieved. It was about who I had become. A man forged in the fires of adversity, tempered by love, and ready to embrace whatever future lay ahead. The eve of the company's anniversary party was a night drenched in introspection. As the city lights flickered outside our window, casting shadows that danced across the walls of our modest living room, I found myself caught in the tide of memories, each wave crashing against the shore of my present. Annie, ever perceptive to the shifting tides within me, sat beside me, her hand finding mine in the dim light. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice a gentle anchor in the sea of my thoughts. I looked into her eyes, pools of unwavering support and love, and found the courage to voice the turmoil that churned within. "I'm nervous," I admitted, the words feeling like a confession. "Tomorrow, I'll be facing those who never saw me as anything more than a joke, a nobody. It's not just about proving them wrong anymore. It's about facing the ghosts of my past." Annie squeezed my hand, her presence a silent vow of solidarity. "But you're not that scared kid anymore, David. You're a man who has built a life out of sheer will and love. No matter what happens tomorrow, it doesn't define you. You've already won your battles." Her words were a balm to the raw edges of my soul, yet the specter of the past lingered, an uninvited guest in the sanctity of our home. The echoes of Sarah's laughter, the sharp sting of her words, and the cold indifference of my classmates. These were the phantoms that prowled the corridors of my mind, their whispers a reminder of a time when I believed myself unworthy of any success or happiness. The night stretched on, a canvas upon which my fears and hopes painted a turbulent picture. I lay awake, the silence of the room punctuated by the soft rhythm of Annie's breathing. My mind wandered through the years, each memory, a stepping stone that had led me to this precipice. I remembered the countless nights spent studying by the dim light of our old lamp, the weight of textbooks, a tangible measure of the distance between my dreams and my reality. I recalled the days of toil, each job a rung on the ladder that I was determined to climb, no matter how slippery the steps. But it wasn't just the struggle that defined my journey. It was also the moments of unexpected kindness, a teacher who believed in me, a stranger's encouraging word, a friend's unwavering support. These were the beacons that had guided me through the darkest of times, the stars that had shone in my darkest nights. And then there was Annie. Annie, with her unwavering faith and love, who had seen the man I could become, even when I was lost in the shadow of the boy I had been. She had been my compass, guiding me back to myself whenever the world threatened to lead me astray. As dawn began to break, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, a sense of calm settled over me. The party was not just a reunion. It was a testament to the journey I had undertaken. It was a bridge between my past and my present, a path that I had carved with determination and love. With the first light of day, Annie stirred beside me, her eyes fluttering open to meet mine. "Today is your day," she whispered, her voice the melody of a new beginning. "It's the day you show the world who David Young really is." Her words were the armor I needed to face the day ahead. As I stood up, ready to embrace whatever the reunion would bring, I realized that this was not just about confronting the past. It was about celebrating the present and embracing the future. It was about honoring the journey that had brought me here with all its pain and triumph. Today, I would face Sarah and my former classmates not as the victim of their cruelty, but as the architect of my destiny. I would stand tall, not just for myself, but for every kid who had ever felt less than, for every dream that had been scoffed at, for every moment of doubt that had been transformed into a step towards greatness. As Annie and I walked out of our home, hand in hand into the light of a new day, I knew that no matter what lay ahead, we were ready, for we were not just the sum of our past, but the authors of our future. And today was just another chapter in our ongoing story of resilience, love, and triumph. The night of the company's anniversary party arrived, cloaked in an air of grandeur and expectation. The venue, a testament to the company's success, was adorned with elegant decor, its walls echoing with the hum of anticipation and the soft melodies of a string quartet. As Annie and I stepped into the grand hall, a wave of nostalgia washed over me, mingling with a cocktail of apprehension and resolve. The room was a sea of faces, some familiar, others new, all united in celebration of the company's achievements. Colleagues and peers mingled, their laughter and chatter a symphony of the corporate world's intricate dance. The air was perfumed with the scent of success, a fragrance that once seemed so foreign and unreachable to me. As I looked around, taking in the splendor of the occasion, my thoughts drifted to the journey that had led me here. The countless hours of dedication, the sacrifices, the relentless pursuit of a dream that had seemed so distant in the dark corridors of my youth. And yet, here I was, standing in the midst of it all, the president of a thriving company. My past, a shadow that lingered in the corners of my memory. Annie's hand in mine was a tangible reminder of the love and support that had been my anchor. Her presence by my side was a testament to the power of unwavering faith and companionship. She looked radiant, her eyes reflecting the pride and joy she felt, not just for the company's success, but for the personal victories that had paved the way. The evening progressed, a tapestry of congratulations, handshakes, and polite conversation. Yet, beneath the veneer of celebration, a current of anticipation ran through me. I knew that Sarah and her husband Brandon would be here. The protagonists of my childhood torment, their presence an unavoidable reckoning with my past. As I conversed with colleagues, my gaze occasionally scanned the crowd, a part of me searching for the faces that had haunted my dreams. The thought of encountering them filled me with a complex blend of emotions, a desire for vindication, a curiosity to see the people they had become, and an underlying apprehension about reopening old wounds. The moment came sooner than expected. Amidst the laughter and the clinking of glasses, I saw them. Sarah and Brandon, arm in arm, their entrance marked by an air of arrogance that seemed to part the crowd like a ship cutting through calm waters. Sarah was as beautiful as I remembered, her beauty now sharpened by the passage of time, her smile still possessing the power to draw attention. Brandon, tall and confident, exuded a sense of entitlement that seemed to cling to him like a second skin. They hadn't seen me yet, and as I watched them from across the room, a myriad of memories flooded my senses. The sting of Sarah's words, the humiliation of their laughter, the feeling of helplessness. All these emotions surged within me, a storm that threatened to overwhelm the shores of my composure. Annie, sensing the shift in my demeanor, gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. "You're not alone," she whispered, her voice a beacon in the tempest of my thoughts. Her words were a reminder of the strength I had found, the battles I had fought and won, and the love that had been my shield against the cruelties of the world. Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself for the encounter. This was more than just a confrontation. It was a closure, a chance to stand before those who had belittled me and show them the man I had become. It was an opportunity to reclaim the narrative of my life, to rewrite the script that had been forced upon me in my youth. As we made our way towards them, each step felt like a journey in itself, a journey from the shadows of my past into the light of my present. I could feel the eyes of the room upon us, a silent audience to the unfolding drama, yet all I could see was the path ahead, a path that led to a moment of truth that had been years in the making. The distance closed, and as Sarah's eyes met mine, recognition dawned in them, a flicker of surprise that quickly morphed into something I couldn't quite decipher. Brandon, too, looked at me, his expression one of confusion, unaware of the significance of this encounter. "David Young," I introduced myself, my voice steady and clear. "It's been a long time, Sarah." Brandon. The words hung in the air, a bridge between past and present, between the boy I once was and the man I had become. In that moment, as we stood face to face, the echoes of yesterday resonated with the reality of today, a symphony of redemption and resilience that played the melody of my life's most defining chapter. As our eyes met, a silent acknowledgement passed between us. Sarah's gaze, once so piercing and scornful, now wavered under the weight of her realization. Beside her, Brandon's confusion slowly morphed into a dawning awareness, his posture subtly shifting as he took in my presence, no longer just a face in the crowd, but the president of the company he was part of. "David Young," Sarah repeated, her voice a mix of surprise and something else, something akin to respect, or perhaps fear. I didn't realize. "Congratulations are in order." Her words, carefully neutral, couldn't mask the undercurrent of disbelief that tinged them. Brandon extended his hand, a gesture of forced congeniality. Brandon, I've heard quite a bit about your accomplishments. Impressive, really. His tone carried the echo of the condescension I remembered all too well. But now it seemed hollow, an outdated script from a play long ended. The moment was surreal, a scene I had replayed in my mind countless times, yet nothing like I had imagined. Standing before them, I felt a sense of detachment, as if I was observing a scene from someone else's life. The hurt and anger that had once consumed me now seemed distant, diluted by time and the healing brought by love and success. Annie, ever perceptive, remained by my side, her presence a silent show of support. She knew my story, every painful chapter, and her hand on my arm was a reminder of the journey we had shared. It's been a long time since high school, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. A lot has changed since then. Sarah nodded, her eyes flickering away momentarily, a crack in her once impenetrable facade. Yes, it certainly has, she replied, a trace of the old haughtiness creeping into her voice. But it was a faded echo of what it once was, like a ghost losing its grip on the living world. The conversation that followed was a dance of awkwardness and polite small talk. We spoke of the company, the party, trivialities that served as a buffer against the unspoken tensions that simmered beneath the surface. There were no apologies, no acknowledgments of the past, only a mutual understanding that we had all moved beyond the people we once were. As the encounter drew to a close, with promises of catching up later that felt more obligatory than sincere, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticlimax. This moment, which I had once envisioned as a triumphant vindication, felt more like a quiet closing of a chapter. There was no dramatic confrontation, no cathartic release of pent-up anger, just a subtle, unspoken recognition of the passage of time and the changes it had wrought in all of us. As Sarah and Brandon excused themselves, blending back into the crowd, I felt Annie's gaze on me, questioning, searching. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice soft. I looked at her, this incredible woman who had stood by me through the darkest of times, and felt a profound sense of gratitude. "Yes," I replied, my heart feeling lighter than it had in years. "I think I am." In that moment, as the music swelled and the party continued around us, I realized that the closure I'd sought wasn't about confronting Sarah and Brandon. It was about confronting my own past, accepting it, and recognizing how far I had come. It was about understanding that the power they once held over me was gone, dissolved in the light of my own achievements and the love that had sustained me. I took a deep breath, the air filling my lungs like a promise of new beginnings. The echoes of yesterday had finally faded, leaving behind a sense of peace and a future filled with endless possibilities. As Annie and I rejoined the celebration, I knew that this night was not just a milestone for the company, but a personal triumph, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of forgiveness and love. The evening progressed, a tapestry of light and sound, each moment a brushstroke on the canvas of the night. As Annie and I mingled with guests, I could feel the weight of the earlier encounter slowly lifting from my shoulders. Yet an undercurrent of anticipation ran through me, a prelude to a moment that I knew was inevitable. It was during a brief lull, a moment of quiet amidst the revelry, that our host called for attention. The room hushed, a sea of faces turning towards the stage. As the president, it was my turn to address the gathering, a responsibility that I had prepared for, yet now felt strangely monumental. Stepping onto the stage, I looked out over the crowd, a myriad of eyes reflecting the soft glow of the chandeliers. In that sea of faces, I found Sarah and Brandon, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Taking a deep breath, I began to speak, my voice carrying across the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends," I started, my heart beating a steady rhythm. "Tonight, We celebrate not just the success of our company, but the journey that brought us here. A journey marked by perseverance, resilience, and the belief that from humble beginnings, great things can arise. The words flowed, a narrative of the company's growth and achievements. But beneath them lay another story. My story. With each sentence, I wove the tale of a boy who had faced adversity and turned it into strength. A young man who had dared to dream beyond the confines of his circumstances. I stand before you, not just as the president of this company, I continued, but as someone who once believed that the world had little to offer him. As a child, I faced challenges that many here cannot imagine. Poverty, bullying, a constant struggle to prove that I was more than the labels placed upon me. The room was silent, a collective breath held in anticipation. In their eyes, I saw a dawning understanding, a realization that the man they knew as their leader had walked a path paved with trials and tribulations. But those challenges, I said, my voice steady, taught me invaluable lessons. They taught me empathy, determination, and the importance of seeing beyond the surface. They made me who I am today, and they are why I stand here, committed to ensuring that this company is a place where talent and hard work are recognized, where everyone has the opportunity to rise. As I spoke, I could feel the walls of the past crumbling, the shadows of my former self dissipating in the light of truth. There was a power in this revelation, a liberation in laying bare the journey that had shaped me. In the faces of the audience, I saw not just surprise, but respect and a newfound understanding. I glanced again at Sarah and Brandon. Their expressions were unreadable, a complex mix of emotions that I no longer felt the need to decipher. This moment was not about them. It was about them. It was about embracing my past and using it to forge a brighter future. Concluding my speech, a wave of applause washed over me, a warm embrace that filled the room. As I stepped down from the stage, I felt a profound sense of accomplishment, not for the accolades or the success, but for the honesty and vulnerability I had shared. Annie met me at the foot of the stage, her eyes shining with pride and love. "That was incredible," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. We embraced, a moment of connection that spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement of the journey we had navigated together. As the night continued, colleagues and guests approached me, their words of congratulations now infused with a deeper sense of respect. The revelation had not only altered their perception of me, but had also ignited a sense of unity and purpose within the company. The party slowly wound down, the guests departing with smiles and handshakes, leaving behind an atmosphere charged with inspiration and hope. As Annie and I prepared to leave, I took one last look around the room, a space that had witnessed a pivotal moment in my life. Walking out into the cool night air, I felt a sense of closure, a chapter concluded. The boy who had once lived in the shadows of fear and doubt was gone, replaced by a man who had embraced his past and used it to light the way forward. The echoes of yesterday had been silenced, giving way to the promise of a new dawn, a future filled with possibilities and the enduring power of resilience and love. As Annie and I left the grandeur of the party behind, stepping into the cool embrace of the night, the air seemed to hum with the residue of revelations and unspoken truths. The evening had been a crescendo of emotions, culminating in a moment of unexpected vulnerability that I had shared with the world. But as we drove home, my thoughts lingered not on my own journey, but on the unraveling fate of Sarah and Brandon. In the days that followed, the repercussions of that night began to unfold in ways I had not anticipated. The news of my speech had spread beyond the walls of the party, igniting conversations and revelations within the company and the broader community. Among these ripples of change was the stark and sudden downfall of Brandon. Brandon, who had stood beside Sarah on the night of the party, his arrogance thinly veiled behind a mask of politeness, was now facing the consequences of his own actions. Rumors and truths intertwined, painting a picture of a man whose professional conduct was marred by the same entitlement and disregard for others that had characterized his behavior since high school. It was not long before Brandon's professional misdeeds came to light, leading to his dismissal from the company. The news of his termination was a shock to many, but for those who had known him since our school days, it felt like an inevitable chapter in the story of a man who had never learned to look beyond himself. The downfall of Brandon was a stark reminder of the fragile nature of success and the weight of responsibility that came with power. His dismissal was not a cause for celebration. Rather, it was a sobering demonstration of the consequences of unchecked arrogance and a lack of empathy. As Brandon grappled with the loss of his career and the lifestyle it afforded, Sarah's world, too, began to crumble. The social standing she had so fiercely guarded, the image she had meticulously crafted over the years, started to fade. The couple, once the epitome of success and beauty, found themselves ostracized by the very community they had sought to dominate. In the weeks that followed, I watched from a distance as Sarah and Brandon struggled to come to terms with their new reality. Their lavish lifestyle, once sustained by Brandon's lucrative career, was no longer tenable. The luxury car, the designer clothes, the opulent house that had been their fortress against the world, all were slipping through their fingers like grains of sand. But it was not the material losses that marked the true depth of their fall. It was the loss of identity, the shattering of the illusion of superiority that they had clung to for so long. Brandon, now a shadow of his former self, was forced to seek employment far removed from the corporate heights he'd once occupied. Sarah, too, faced her own reckoning. The beauty that had been her weapon, the charm that had been her shield, now seemed inconsequential in the face of her family's spiraling downfall. As the days turned into weeks, the schadenfreude that some might have expected me to feel never materialized. Instead, there was a profound sense of sadness, a recognition of the destructive power of unhealed wounds and unchecked egos. Sarah and Brandon's descent was not a victory. It was a tragedy, a poignant reminder of the paths we choose and the consequences they bring. Watching their descent, I was reminded of the delicate balance of life, of the fine line between success and failure. It reinforced in me the values of humility, empathy, and the importance of never losing sight of one's roots. Their story, entwined with my own, was a lesson in the impermanence of status and the enduring importance of character. As Annie and I discussed the unfolding events, we did so with a sense of reflective contemplation. Our journey had taught us that true success was not measured by wealth or status, but by the integrity of one's actions and the kindness one showed to others. In the quiet of our home, far removed from the glittering lights of the party and the unfolding drama of Sarah and Brandon's life, we found comfort in the simplicity of our existence. Our love, strengthened by the trials we had faced, was a reminder of what truly mattered. In the end, the fallout of Brandon and Sarah's downfall was a chapter in their story, a consequence of choices made and paths taken. For me, it was a sobering reminder of the fragility of life's constructs and the power of living a life guided by compassion and humility. As I looked towards the future, I did so with a renewed commitment to lead not just with ambition, but with a heart that remembered the lessons of the past and the values that had guided me through the darkest of times. In the quiet aftermath of the party, as the echoes of revelations and the shock waves of Brandon and Sarah's downfall began to settle, I found myself in a reflective state, grappling with a melange of emotions that the events had stirred within me. The comfort of our home, usually a haven from the outside world, now felt like a crucible of introspection. I sat by the window, watching the dawn break, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. The beauty of the sunrise stood in stark contrast to the tumultuous thoughts that clouded my mind. Annie, ever the anchor in my storm, joined me, her presence a wordless solace. We sat in silence, lost in our own thoughts, yet united in the unspoken understanding of all that had transpired. The events of the party had not just been a culmination of my journey from a tormented child to a successful man. They had also been a mirror reflecting the different paths people take and the consequences that follow. Sarah and Brandon's plight, though self-inflicted, evoked a sense of melancholic empathy within me. Their fall from grace was a poignant reminder of the fragility of life's fortunes. It brought forth the realization that the lines between success and failure, right and wrong, are often blurred, interwoven in the complex tapestry of human choices and actions. As I reflected on their journey, I couldn't help but recall the countless times Sarah's mocking laughter had filled the school hallways, her words like daggers to my self-esteem. And yet now, thinking of her current situation, I felt no sense of triumph or satisfaction. Instead, there was a profound sadness, a lament for what could have been if different choices had been made, if different paths had been taken. Brandon, too, elicited a complicated response. His dismissal from the company and the subsequent unraveling of his life were consequences of his actions, a stark illustration of the adage that one reaps what they sow. And yet, as I pondered his fate, I couldn't shake off a sense of regret that he had not chosen a path of humility and empathy, that he had allowed his arrogance to lead him to his downfall. In these reflections, I realized the power of redemption and the importance of forgiveness, not just for the sake of those who have wronged us, but for our own peace. Holding on to resentment and bitterness only serves to imprison us in the past, preventing us from fully embracing the present and moving forward into the future. The party had been more than just a celebration of the company's success or a revelation of my past struggles. It had been a catalyst for change, both within the company and within myself. It had opened doors to conversations about empathy, resilience, and the importance of recognizing the humanity in each of us, regardless of our past or present circumstances. As the day unfolded, Annie and I engaged in long conversations about the impact of the night. We discussed the importance of creating a nurturing environment, both in our personal lives and in the workplace, where individuals are valued not just for their successes, but for their character and humanity. We also spoke of our future, of the legacy we wanted to leave behind. The events had reinforced our desire to foster a world of compassion and understanding, a world where success is measured not just in material achievements, but in the positive impact we have on the lives of others. The party had been a turning point, a moment in time that had changed the course of several lives. For Sarah and Brandon, it was the beginning of a journey of self-reflection and, hopefully, redemption. For me, it was a reaffirmation of my values and the life I had chosen to lead. As night fell, casting a blanket of stars across the sky, I felt a sense of closure. The events of the party had closed a chapter of my past, allowing me to look forward to the future with renewed purpose and hope. With Annie by my side, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, guided by the lessons of the past and the promise of a better tomorrow. For in the end, it is not the trials we face that define us, but how we choose to respond to them, how we allow them to shape us into better, kinder, more empathetic human beings. In the days following the party, Brandon's world unraveled with a speed that was both shocking and inevitable. From the outside, his life had always appeared unassailable, a fortress built on success and confidence. But now, as his professional misdeeds came to light and his career collapsed, the fortress crumbled, revealing the fragile man behind the facade. I watched, not with satisfaction, but with a heavy heart, as Brandon grappled with his new reality. The man who had once walked with a swagger, who had wielded his power with a careless disregard for others, now seemed diminished, his confidence replaced by a dawning realization of his vulnerability. The news of his departure from the company rippled through our circles, bringing with it a mix of reactions, some of shock, others of whispered "I told you so's." But for me, it was a sobering reminder of how closely success and failure walk hand in hand, and how quickly one can become the other. Brandon's descent was swift and unforgiving. The luxury items and symbols of status he had accumulated over the years were the first to go. The high-end car, once a proud emblem of his success, was sold. The lavish home, which had hosted countless extravagant parties, was put on the market. With each sale, with each relinquishment of these material possessions, the reality of his situation became more stark and unavoidable. But it was not the loss of material wealth that marked the true depth of Brandon's fall. It was the internal struggle, the private battle he faced as his worldview crumbled. For years, he had defined himself by his success, his power, his ability to command respect and fear in equal measure. Now, stripped of these, who was Brandon? As the weeks passed, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Brandon was seeking employment far removed from the high-flying corporate world he once dominated. He took a position at a manufacturing plant, a role that just months before he would have deemed beneath him. The irony was not lost on me. Brandon, who had once looked down on those he perceived as lesser, was now walking in their shoes. In those moments of reflection, I felt no desire to revel in his misfortune. Instead, I experienced an unexpected sense of empathy. Despite our history, despite the hurt he had caused, I found myself hoping that this fall from grace would be a catalyst for change, an opportunity for Brandon to rebuild himself, not just in the eyes of the world, but in his own eyes. The news of Brandon's changing circumstances also brought about a shift within me. It made me reassess my own journey, the values I held, and the way I viewed success. It was a stark reminder that our character, our compassion, and our integrity are the true measures of our worth, not the titles we hold or the wealth we accumulate. Brandon's story, unfolding in the aftermath of the party, was a poignant narrative of loss, redemption, and the often painful journey towards self-discovery. It was a tale that resonated far beyond the confines of our shared history, speaking to the universal truths of human frailty and the potential for growth in the face of adversity. As I watched from afar, I saw in Brandon's descent not just the fall of a man I once knew, but a reflection of the complex tapestry of life, where every thread, every color, every pattern holds the potential for transformation. In his struggle, in his journey towards redemption, there was a lesson for us all, a reminder that it is never too late to change, to grow, to become a better version of ourselves. And so, as the chapter of Brandon's descent drew to a close, I turned my gaze inward, reflecting on my own path, the choices I had made, and the man I hoped to be. For in the end, each of us is on a journey, a path strewn with triumphs and failures, joys and sorrows, and it is how we navigate this journey that defines us. In the wake of Brandon's downfall, Sarah's world, too, underwent a transformation, but of a different kind. The change in her was not as immediate or as visible as Brandon's. It was a slower, more introspective journey. For Sarah, the unraveling of the life she knew was not just a loss of material wealth or social status, but a profound confrontation with her past and the person she had become. I heard about Sarah's struggles through whispers and secondhand stories, each narrative painting a picture of a woman grappling with the stark reality of her new life. The social circles that once embraced her now turned their backs, leaving her isolated in a world she had once dominated with her charm and beauty. The change in Sarah was more than just circumstantial. It was existential. For so long, she defined herself through external validation, her popularity, her appearance, her ability to wield influence. But stripped of these, who was Sarah? This question seemed to haunt her, a shadow that followed her through the empty halls of the life she once knew. I learned that Sarah had started working night shifts at a local diner, a far cry from the glamorous life she had once led. It was a humbling experience for her, serving others in a role she would have once scoffed at. Yet in this new reality, in the quiet anonymity of her work, Sarah began to embark on a journey of self-reflection. It was during one of these night shifts that our paths crossed again. It was an accidental encounter. Annie and I had stopped at the diner for a late-night coffee after a long day at work. Seeing Sarah there, behind the counter, was a shock to both of us. Our eyes met, and for a moment, time stood still, a silent acknowledgement of the vastly different trajectories our lives had taken. Sarah's appearance had changed. The once vibrant, confident woman was now more subdued, her beauty dimmed by the weight of her experiences. But it was her eyes that caught my attention the most. Gone was the haughty glint, replaced by a depth that spoke of introspection and, perhaps, understanding. Our interaction was brief and polite. There was no mention of the past, no rehashing of old wounds. Instead, there was a mutual, unspoken recognition of the pain and growth that life had thrust upon us. As we left the diner, I found myself filled with a complex mix of emotions. There was no sense of victory in seeing Sarah in her reduced circumstances. Instead, there was a profound sense of empathy, a wish for her to find her way out of the shadows of her past. In the days that followed, I often thought about Sarah and the journey she was on. It was a path marked by introspection and reckoning, a painful yet necessary process of stripping away the layers of ego and pretense to confront the raw, unvarnished truth of oneself. Sarah's awakening, as it unfolded, was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It was a reminder that growth often comes from the most unexpected and challenging experiences, that redemption is possible even for those who seem most lost. Her story became, for me, a reflection on the power of change and the capacity for redemption that lies within all of us. It was a reminder that the choices we make, the paths we take, have profound consequences, not just on our lives, but on the lives of those around us. As I watched Sarah navigate her new reality, I found a newfound respect for her, not for the person she had been, but for the person she was striving to become. In her struggle, in her journey towards understanding and redemption, there was a lesson in humility and the transformative power of facing one's past. Sarah's story, intertwined with mine in the tapestry of life, was no longer one of a bully and her victim. It had evolved into a narrative of two individuals, each confronting their pasts and learning from them, each on their journey towards healing and growth. It was a poignant reminder that life is a continuous process of becoming, of shedding old skins and emerging anew, often stronger and wiser for the experiences we have endured. In the quiet aftermath of the events that unfolded post-party, I found myself on a path of profound introspection. Witnessing the descent of Brandon and the awakening of Sarah had not only been a journey of observing others, but also a deep, personal odyssey into the caverns of my own soul. Sitting in my study one evening, the walls lined with books that spoke of triumphs and tragedies of characters both real and imagined, I realized that my own story was continuing to evolve. The boy who had been bullied, the young man who had fought against the tides of adversity, had grown into someone more complex, more understanding, and yet still healing. As I looked back on my life, the pain of the past, once sharp and biting, now felt like a dull ache, a reminder of where I had been and what I had overcome. The wounds inflicted by Sarah's taunting, Brandon's arrogance, and the indifference of those who stood by had scarred over. But they had not disappeared. They were part of me, a tapestry of scars that told a story of resilience and strength. Yet, in this process of healing, I came to realize that true strength lay not in forgetting the past, nor in reveling in the struggles of those who had wronged me, but in understanding, forgiving, and moving forward. The revelation at the party, the fall of Brandon, and the transformation of Sarah were not just external events. They were catalysts for a deeper, more meaningful internal journey. As I reflected on my journey, I understood that my experiences had instilled in me a profound sense of empathy and compassion. The pain I had endured became a wellspring of understanding for others' struggles. The lessons I had learned about resilience and perseverance were not just for my own benefit. They were gifts to be shared, to help others navigate their own storms. Annie, my partner in every sense, was a constant presence on this journey. Her love and support had been unwavering, her belief in me unshakable. It was with her that I shared my deepest reflections, my moments of doubt, and my realizations. In our conversations, I found not only solace, but also the courage to confront the parts of my past that I had locked away. One evening, as we sat together, the golden light of sunset bathing the room in a warm glow, I voiced a thought that had been lingering in the shadows of my mind. "I think I need to forgive them," I said quietly, the words feeling both heavy and liberating. Sarah, Brandon, Annie looked at me, her eyes reflecting a deep understanding. "That's a powerful decision," she said softly. "Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you, about your peace." Her words echoed in my heart. Forgiveness was not a surrender, nor was it an erasure of the past. It was an act of reclaiming power, the power to define my story on my terms, to release the bitterness and anger that had, in subtle ways, colored my perceptions and reactions. In the weeks that followed, I embarked on a quiet journey of forgiveness. It was not a dramatic declaration, but a series of small internal steps towards releasing the resentment and pain that I had carried for so long. I began to see Sarah and Brandon not just as the perpetrators of my childhood suffering, but as fellow humans who had their own battles, their own flaws, and their own potential for redemption. This journey of healing was not just about forgiving those who had wronged me. It was also about forgiving myself, for the times I had doubted my worth, for the moments I had allowed the pain to define me, for the instances where I had clung to the victim narrative because it was familiar and safe. As this internal journey unfolded, I found a greater sense of peace and clarity. My interactions with others, both in my personal and professional life, were infused with a deeper sense of understanding and kindness. The values I had always held dear, empathy, integrity, perseverance, were now more than just ideals. They were lived experiences, woven into the very fabric of my being. In healing my own wounds, I discovered a profound truth that our greatest trials often lead to our most significant transformations. The journey of healing and forgiveness had not only liberated me from the chains of the past, but it also opened my heart to a richer, more compassionate way of being. It was a journey that continued to unfold, each day a step towards a deeper understanding of myself and the world around me. In this journey, I found not just peace, but a renewed purpose: to live a life that honored my experiences, to be a beacon of hope and resilience, and to help others find their path to healing and wholeness. As the seasons changed and the leaves turned from green to a symphony of autumn hues, so too did my perspective on life and its myriad intricate pathways. The process of healing and forgiving had not only been a journey inward, but also a gateway to new horizons, both personally and professionally. In the wake of my revelations and the shifts in my personal philosophy, I found myself more attuned to the needs and struggles of those around me. My role as a leader in the company took on a new dimension. I was no longer just a decision maker. I had become a mentor, a guide, someone who understood that the success of our company was intrinsically linked to the well-being of every individual in it. I initiated programs focused on employee development and wellness, understanding that a company's strength lies in the health and happiness of its people. We established initiatives that provided support for those facing personal challenges, recognizing that the lines between personal and professional lives are often blurred and intertwined. Annie and I also became more involved in community work. We realized that our experiences and resources could be channeled into helping others who were facing difficulties similar to what we had experienced. We worked with local schools to set up anti-bullying campaigns, sharing our stories and listening to those of the students. It was both heartbreaking and uplifting to see the impact of these interactions, the pain in their stories, but also the resilience and hope. In these efforts, I found a new purpose, a way to give meaning to the struggles I had faced. It was a way to transform the pain of the past into a force for positive change. I often thought of Sarah and Brandon during this time, wondering how their paths were unfolding, hoping that they, too, were finding ways to grow and evolve from their experiences. As the year drew to a close, Annie and I reflected on the changes that had come our way. We realized that our relationship had deepened, fortified by the trials we had faced and the journey we had walked together. We found joy in the simple things: quiet evenings at home, walks in the park, the laughter and chatter of our friends and family. Our home, once a sanctuary from the challenges of the world, had become a haven of love, warmth, and understanding. The end of the year also brought with it a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. The company was thriving, not just in terms of profits, but in the culture of empathy and support that had become its hallmark. We were making a difference in ways both big and small, and that filled me with an indescribable sense of fulfillment. As I sat in my office, looking out over the city with its twinkling lights and endless possibilities, I realized that my journey had come full circle. The pain and challenges of my past had led me to this moment, to a life filled with purpose, love, and the capacity to make a difference. The journey had taught me that growth and change are constants in life. We are perpetually evolving, shaped by our experiences and our responses to them. The scars of the past do not define us. Rather, they are markings of our resilience, testaments to our ability to overcome and thrive. As the new year dawned, I looked forward to the future with a heart full of hope and eyes open to the endless possibilities that lay ahead. I knew there would be challenges, but I also knew that we had the strength and the support to face them. Our story was one of triumph over adversity, of the power of love and forgiveness, and of the endless capacity for growth and change. In this journey, I had not only found peace and purpose, but had also discovered a deeper understanding of the human spirit. It was a journey that would continue, each day a new chapter in a story that was still being written. And as I turned my gaze to the horizon, to the new challenges and opportunities that awaited, I knew that whatever the future held, we were ready to face it with open hearts and unyielding resolve. As the wheel of time continued its relentless turn, bringing with it the blossoming of spring and the promise of renewal, I found myself standing at a precipice, looking out onto a future filled with hope and possibilities. The journey I had embarked upon, one that had begun in the shadowed valleys of my past, had led me to heights I once thought unattainable. Yet, as I gazed into the horizon of what was yet to come, I realized that the journey was far from over. The company that I had nurtured and grown was now more than just a business. It had become a community, a family bound together by shared values and mutual respect. We had weathered storms and celebrated victories, each milestone a testament to the collective spirit that drove us. I had seen young interns blossom into confident professionals, watched as ideas turned into innovations that changed the way we worked, lived, and interacted with the world. But beyond the walls of the office, beyond the accolades and achievements, lay the true measure of the journey I had taken. It was in the quiet moments of reflection, in the depth of the connections I had forged, in the simple acts of kindness that had become woven into the fabric of my everyday life. Annie, my partner in every sense of the word, continued to be my guiding star. Her wisdom and compassion a constant source of inspiration and strength. Together, we embarked on new projects and adventures, each endeavor a reflection of our shared commitment to making a positive impact in the world. Our home was a haven of love and laughter, a place where friends, family, and even strangers found warmth and welcome. One of the most profound changes I experienced was in my relationship with Sarah and Brandon. Though our paths rarely crossed, the animosity that had once defined our interactions had faded, replaced by a sense of mutual understanding and, perhaps, forgiveness. I heard of their efforts to rebuild their lives, of the challenges they faced, and the small victories they celebrated. In their story, I saw the echoes of my own, a reminder that redemption and resilience are possible, even in the face of the greatest adversities. As I looked back on the journey, I realized that the experiences I had lived through, the pain I had endured, and the triumphs I had celebrated were not just chapters in my own story. They were part of a larger narrative, a tapestry of human experience that connected me to others in ways both seen and unseen. The lessons I had learned about empathy, resilience, and the transformative power of forgiveness had become ingrained in my being. They guided my actions and decisions, both in my personal life and in my role as a leader. I strove to be a mentor, a friend, and a role model, not just in my words, but in my actions. As the future unfolded, I embraced each new challenge and opportunity with open arms. The company continued to grow, branching out into new ventures and initiatives that reflected our commitment to innovation and social responsibility. Personally, Annie and I found new ways to give back, to share our experiences, and to help others find their path to healing and fulfillment. In quiet moments of solitude, I often reflected on the boy I once was, a boy who felt lost and alone, a boy who dreamed of a better life. That boy, who had once looked up at the stars and felt their unreachable distance, had journeyed far beyond the confines of his imagination. And as I looked up at those same stars now, I realized that the journey was not just about reaching a destination. It was about the lessons learned along the way, the people who joined us on our path, and the lives we touched and transformed. The future, with all its unknowns and possibilities, lay before me like an uncharted map, filled with roads to be traveled and stories to be written. And as I stepped forward into that future, hand in hand with Annie, heart filled with hope, I knew that the journey would be one of continual growth, change, and boundless opportunity. For in the end, it is not the destination that defines us, but the journey itself, a journey of resilience, love, and the unending quest to become the best versions of ourselves.